Slow starts, Chris. You had 2 again this year. Is there any similarities to last year why it's happening again, or?
We're not sticking our head in the sand. We're aware that that cost us at times last year, and it could very easily have cost us again this year. I mean, we're as good a chance to be 0-2 as we were 2-0. So we're aware of it, and I mean there are some intangibles that we need to be across, but we're going to focus more on the tangible things. The difference between when we fought our way back into the game as opposed to when it got away from us early on. So we're aware of them. Unfortunately for you guys, we don't talk about those things publicly, but we're really confident that we'll be able to fix those for this week.
So Steve Johnson out training before. Is he? I know you said last week, probably unlikely for this week. Is he some sort of chance?
No, he's some sort of chance. Yeah. Again, he'll be disappointed that I've rated him some sort of chance. He's very confident that he'll play. Our medical staff think he's a chance, but there's just more work that needs to be done before we can make a definitive judgment.
What is that? What sort of, I guess, choice has to make? It comes down to the medical staff. But Steve clearly say he wants to play, but the medical staff has to make the call.
Yeah, Steve has a bit of input, but the medical staff has more. They're the ones that need to make that judgment. Only he knows how he feels, so obviously that's where he comes into the decision-making process, and I'm clearly third in line when it comes to making that decision. In terms of his preparation to play AFL football through the pre-season, he's got a lot of work behind him, and we're confident that if he's available and he comes into the team, that he'll be able to perform to a high level based on that preparation.
Jared Rivers?
Unlikely this week.
Okay, this time last week you weren't sure of the exact diagnosis and where it was at. What was sort of found in there?
He had a little bit of a strain to his PCL. The prognosis was 2 to 3 weeks. No, it was probably more like somewhere between 2 and 4. So we're banking on 3, but if it is 4, it wouldn't surprise us. But one thing that I sound like a broken record, but he won't play until he's absolutely ready to play his best footy.
You get some blokes back through the VFL this week. I'll be understanding Menzel, Hunt, Guthrie are all going to play.
Yeah, that's the way it sits right at the moment. Josh Hunt I'm a little less certain on. Cam Guthrie is a certainty, and Dan Menzel's a certainty as well. Haven't said that for a while, so that's exciting. The other certainty for Dan is he'll spend a few weeks in the VFL. He's like Steve Johnson, he'll be very disappointed to hear that.
Nathan Barty said last week that he was close and was hoping for this week. Do we assume that's not right?
No, it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. I'm expecting that he will play the week after.
Daniel Menzel, young man who's clearly had a lot of problems with his knee. It must be incredibly frustrating and devastating for him. Can you just talk us through, I guess, the latest comeback? It's obviously been fairly short. Just talk us through where he's at.
Yeah, we can talk about the devastation and the frustration, but I'm more inclined to talk about the excitement of getting such a valuable player, irrespective of his age, back into our VFL system first, and then give him a chance to fight his way into the AFL team. It's we can choose to focus on the fact that it's a sad story. He's been through a hell of a lot, but I think it's a testament to the work he's done that everyone's so excited about what he can bring to our team when he does eventually force his way back into the AFL system. I think it's easy to forget that final in 2011 he'd kicked 5 goals. I think he'd kicked 6 or 7 goals in 5 quarters of footy against 2 of the best teams in the competition. He's an outstanding prospect, and the information I get from the experts are that there's no reason he can't come back and be the player he was.
It's an incredible amount of determination.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, that's really why that's the main reason he's such a valuable part of our footy club, because of the attitude he brings to what he does. Well, everyone understands the talent he has, but talent's overrated. Like, he's where he is because of the work he's put in, not because of any God-given talent.
It's a bit of a mental hurdle for him to overcome that initially.
Oh, probably will be. Yeah, I can't really speak to it. He will certainly be feeling those things. That would only be natural. But I think he's had a long time to face his football mortality, and the time's come now that he's absolutely ready to play, and he can have faith that he's done everything he possibly can do. And if there's a bad outcome somewhere along the line, then I think he'll face that the same way he's faced this one. And I'm quite prepared to say this publicly. If at some point he hurts his knee again, we'll just go through the same process. And he'll be back because the medical staff are telling us that there's no reason he can't be.
Will he just be worked into it half or 3/4, or is he just ready to go?
Oh, no, I'd be surprised if he plays a full game this week. Yeah, the plan is for him to play limited game time and just get a feel for footy again. You know, there'll be no judgment made on his performance or his work rate or anything like that. It's just about getting out and playing some footy again and working his way back into that competitive environment. You know, and slowly we'll start ticking off the performance markers as the weeks go by. I'm still confident he'll play pretty well.
Looking forward to Carlton. Chris, do you draw any lessons out of the second half of the North Melbourne game? There are obviously a number of positional changes as well as changes of personnel introduced into the game. Does that give you some clues as to how you start the game against Carlton?
If we go in with similar plans this week to the way we're going to start the game this week, we'd expect the change to be that we implement them better. There are a number of plans we can implement, slight adjustments on the overall game plan. I don't think that's going to be, which one we choose is not going to be as big a factor as the way we implement it. You know, we've been through and we will continue to go through some specific parts of the game when we played poorly. And you know, we expect to improve every single week we play, and I'm confident that'll happen this week.
So it's purely execution?
Oh no, it's a combination of a lot of things, but you know, whichever way we collectively decide to play, we've got to make sure that we do that well. I don't think there are really huge fundamental flaws in what we're trying to implement.
Chris, Tom Lonigan's 100th game this week. How much does a milestone mean to a guy like him who's been through so much so early in his career?
I find it hard to speak on behalf of the players. We are really proud of what Tom's been through, and I've only seen the tail end of that. The players that know Tom really well marvel at the way he's come back so courageously from a horrific injury and the way he plays so fearlessly. So I think it probably galvanises the group a little bit more when Tom ticks off a little milestone like this, but I would regard it as a small milestone for Tom. He's got bigger fish to fry.
Can you talk about just sort of defender he's becoming in the wild for Rocky?
Yeah, I think he's one of the outstanding defenders in the competition. I think he deserved his spot in the All-Australian 40 last year, and that's the level of performance we expect from him week in, week out. And we can say that with a great degree of confidence based on what we've seen the last 2.5 years, or what I've seen the last 2.5 years anyway. He's playing pretty well before I arrived.
Matthew Stokes worked so well as a sub on the weekend. Does that make you tempted to use him in that role again?
No, not anymore. So we were confident that he could give us something there. I said post-game that Stokesy was in our best 21 going into the game, and there are a number of different factors that we considered before we ended up with him. I'd be surprised if he's in that position this week. We have a number of players that we think can play a similar role to the one Stokesy did. He was, for this week, just the one that took his turn.
Is the sub usually going to be somebody, though, who can offer that energy and that run when they come on, rather than, say, like an alternative tool or something of that nature?
It's hard for me to speak for other teams, and everyone has different priorities. I think the opposition you play is certainly a factor. The number of ruckmen you play is a factor, and for us it's going to be different every week. As I said, we go through a process, and gradually players get eliminated from that position, and we end up with 1, 2 or 3 guys that are candidates. I think we saw Essendon with Lovett Murray, I think it was last year, who played that role a lot. I think it's fair to say that we have a different policy to that one.
Jumping back to milestones, just celebrating your 50th game. Would you be able to?
No, I didn't celebrate.
Would you be able to sum up the journey so far in one word?
Fun. Did you just want one word? Yeah. No, it's been great fun. I love my job. If Tom Lonigan's 100th game is a very small milestone, then mine's minuscule.
Andrew Demetrio made it pretty clear yesterday the policy with the route that Eddie had's not going to change. Is that slightly disappointing given a lot of people think it should?
I think I'm probably in the 98% of people that think it should be closed all the time. Andrew's clearly in the 2. I did hear him speak about it. I thought he was voicing his opinion.
You don't think that's shared by most others?
I'm not prepared to speculate. I probably have speculated, haven't I? I think that most people think it should be closed.
As you understand it, it's an AFL decree that with the roof that if it's an afternoon game, early start, or so say between 1 and 3 start, that the roof is open. Is that how you understand it?
Yep.
If it's even if it's raining out, that's time of bounce or whatever.
Yeah, my understanding is 2 hours before the game they've got to make a decision, and once that decision's made, they've got to stick with it.
Okay.
Because if they close the roof while people are inside, there's a chance that things might fall off the roof.
Given, as you say, probably most coaches are in the same basket as you, as a coaches association, is it something you bring up with the AFL?
No. A lot of people probably haven't heard what I said post-game, and I gave my opinion, and that's all it is. It's my opinion. I have 100 things that I'm worrying about this week, and that would be, the last one on the list. Like the coaches. I mean, I think people want to hear our opinions, but these aren't things we go to war over. Well, when I want to go to war over something, you'll know about it. Thanks a lot.
Just goes up one more. Just on the team on the weekend, I mean, the first 2 weeks come from behind wins. Do you think sometimes the footy world gets a bit blasé about what Geelong does and don't quite get the credit that they deserve?
Oh, we're not looking for more credit. No, that's for others to comment on. No, we're pretty comfortable with our position in the football world. Oh, actually, that's not true. We're confident with the legacy, with the historical view on Geelong's performance, but it's not something that we spend too much time thinking about. We regard ourselves to be in the middle rung on the ladder, somewhere between 6 and 12 right at the moment, and we're fighting and scrapping to improve on that. So, what the football world thought of us in 2011-12 didn't really factor in our thinking, and it won't in 2013.